Fatherhood is a difficult journey. It is a duty of self sacrifice that does not give one the recognition that they deserve. Fathers often aren't appreciated for their efforts. Traditionally, the father is the breadwinner of the family, responsible for all the financial obligations. And a lot of the times, their importance is overlooked. Um, I got the idea to do this video because of Father's Day. I wanted to highlight how difficult being a good father can be. So today's video, I will be covering Tomoya Okazaki and a relationship with his father in the anime Clannad. In particular, I'll be talking about the second season of the anime titled Clannad After Story. If you haven't seen it, I highly suggest that you do because I will be spoiling a significant portion of the anime. And I'll say this show is in my top 3 slice of life anime of all time. So please watch it. But I hope you enjoy the video. Season 1 of the anime covers high school students Tomoya Okazaki and his girlfriend Nagisa Furukawa, who he would later marry in season 2 of the anime. But although Tomoya is an ordinary high school student, what's different about him is a relationship that he has with his father in this show. His father, Naoki Okazaki, in Tomoya's eyes, is a deadbeat. In season 1, he despises his father because all he does is come home from work, drink, and smoke all his troubles away. You see, Naoki married Atsuko Okazaki and they had Tomoya. But Atsuko died at an early age. So essentially, Tomoya grew up in a single parent household. We learned that Tomoya's shoulder is broken and he can't raise it above his head anymore, but this was due to a fight that he got into with his father during a drunken rage. You see, Tomoya loved playing basketball in middle school, but now, because he could no longer do this, he internalized his anger and his hatred towards his father. He ends up calling his relationship with his father estranged, as in, even though they're living in the same household, they're very, very distant. As a high schooler, Tomoya verbally abuses his dad, and he calls him a shell of a human being who is broken and has no will. So fast forward to season 2, Tomoya and Nagisa both graduate high school, and they eventually decide to get married and move out of their parents' house. While Nagisa has a good relationship with her parents, Tomoya doesn't. And Nagisa asks Tomoya to at least tell his father where he's moving to, just in case. And Tomoya is very hesitant. He tells Nagisa that he's estranged from his dad, and he gives the excuse that he works every day and he doesn't want to spend any one of his days doing something that he doesn't want to do. He would rather be with Nagisa, if anything. I mean, which is true. I believe he works for a telephone pole company or an electrician company, and his hours do seem rough. But personally, I think you should always try to make time for the ones you care about, no matter how busy you are, because in the end, you never really know how much time you have left. Moving on in the anime, Tomoya is presented with an opportunity from his company. Essentially, the sister company is offering a better position or job to make more money, and his boss is offering it to Tomoya, and things seem really, really up for Tomoya right now. You know, he got married, he has his own place, things are looking pretty good, but that high soon turns into disaster. Tomoya receives a call from jail stating that his father was arrested for dealing with some sort of illegal activity. It's never quite stated what it is, but they live in a small town and word spreads around fast, and ultimately The promotion that Tomoya was going to get was revoked. Tomoya was furious. He was angry that his father had once again ruined his life. He states that his father is a curse that continues to wreak havoc upon him. And he mocks his father as he visits him in jails and asks, "You think it's fun to screw up other people's lives?" He hopes that he rots in hell. Tomoya's hardships were only going to get worse. You see, his wife Nagisa always had a frail body when she was younger. And when she became pregnant with their daughter, Yushio, this was no different. You see, the pregnancy was very rough on Nagisa's body. She was frail and couldn't handle it. And ultimately, after giving birth to her daughter Yushio, Nagisa passes away. Tomoya enters into what I like to call the abyss, a form of depression that is almost unimaginable. For the next 5 years, all his life consisted of was work, eat, sleep, repeat. His apartment was dirty. Paychecks went to gambling. Tomoya says he's only living because it was too much trouble to die. His body was doing everything out of habit. He wanted work to swallow his life so he could forget everything, so he could dull the pain. He'd wish he had never met Nagisa at all. His daughter Yushio was in the care of Nagisa's parents, Akio and Sanai. And without realizing it, it appears that Tomoya is just like his father in his eyes. In fact, even worse, he's an absent, deadbeat father. Up until this point in the anime, Tomoya had never been alone with his daughter. Nagisa's parents, Akio and Sanai, were always present. But one day, Sanai deceptively tricks Tomoya into taking a solo trip with his daughter Yushio. And during this period, it's very awkward because he has to learn how to interact with his daughter, how to be a father, how to talk to a child. You know, Yushio, she has her own personality. She's a very picky eater. She constantly wants to play. And at times, it seems as though she's scared of Tomoya. And Tomoya doesn't really know how to handle her. He talks to her as if she's an adult. And I would describe it as they're estranged. Just like Tomoya felt with his father. They take the train, and throughout the ride, Tomoya is still trying to figure out how he should interact with Yushio. He even buys her a toy at one of the train stops during their trip. They get off the train and enter a town that Tomoya doesn't quite recognize but seems vaguely familiar. They're walking along and Yushio decides to play in the flower bed. And Tomoya walks up a hill and he meets an old woman. She reveals herself to be Shino Okazaki. This is Tomoya's grandmother. He had never met her, or rather, he had met her when he was really, really young and doesn't remember who she is. His grandmother tells him about the oath that his father made to raise Tomoya. When Atsuko, Tomoya's mother, died, Naoki lost everything that he cared about in his life. His life became a dark place. He lost job after job. He was moving place from place just to make ends meet. He was a strict father, often violent at times, and this is what Tomoya remembers the most in season 1. But there's one thing that isn't spoken about. Shino tells Tomoya that Naoki vowed to raise Tomoya into a man, and to do this, he would end up sacrificing his friends, job, reputation, and the love of his son. Tomoya thinks back, and he tries to remember the good that his father did when he was younger. He would come home on breaks just to play with him, and he would give him candy after work too. It's at this point that Tomoya realizes that he was in the exact same spot his father was all those years ago. But instead of neglecting his child, like Tomoya is currently doing, Naoki roars up to the occasion. Tomoya realizes that he was a terrible son, and his father was a better man than he will ever be. And with that, his grandmother begs Tomoya to visit Naoki and let him know that his role of raising him is done. Tomoya finds Yushio in the flower bed crying because she lost her toy that Tomoya bought for her. Tomoya thinks that he can just buy her another toy, but Yushio reveals that the issue is that this is the first toy that he has ever bought for her. And Tomoya realizes in that moment how bad of a father he's really been, and he starts to cry. He asks Yushio if she would be okay to live with a mean guy like him. And this moment is symbolic to the vow that Tomoya's father did all those years ago. This moment in the field shows that Tomoya wants to be a better father, and he needs to get out of the abyss and rise up to the occasion, because it's been 5 long years that he hasn't been a part of her life. Tomoya visits his father's house, and the first thing he notices is that he's getting old. He spent so much of his life hating his father. He didn't realize how much time had actually passed. And as I said earlier, you should always cherish your parents because they won't be around forever. Tomoya apologizes to his dad and tells him his job is done. He has done a fantastic job raising him, and he's been an ungrateful son, and he wants to someday repay him for the kindness his father showed him. He tells his father, please visit grandmother, take a vacation. I will take care of your apartment, I will clean it, and I will take care of all your debts just to try to repay you. Tomoya wonders if his father ever found happiness throughout his journey, losing the love of his life, caring for an ungrateful son. Raising a son in a single-parent household is difficult. Taking care of rent and other financial obligations while being emotionally available is not feasible for one parent. Men understand that the world can be very harsh, and nobody cares about your hardships. It's simply sink or swim. To be a man, to be a father, it is not a path for the weak. You give everything up at your own expense to make ends meet. Fatherhood is a duty of self-sacrifice.